Rome stands before me, and in its heart echo my name, my victories, my triumphs. I have etched myself into history, and Rome remembers me. Yet here I am, a dictator, standing before this monstrous tribunal, and deep within I know, this is but a fleeting moment, a brief breath in the endless tide of eternity. The eternity of Rome, the eternity of its people, the eternity of fate itself. Death will touch me as it has pierced all who once dared to walk the path of greatness. In the end, who am I? A man, like any other. The flesh will perish, but the name will endure through the ages. I remember how the first steps of my journey led me into the forests of Gaul, where I claimed my glorious victories. I saved Rome. I am its leader, its conqueror. My path through war and betrayal was harsh, yet I never regretted what I had done. Glory is not a reward. It is a burden carried by those who choose to become great. But now, in the shadow of these columns, beneath these marble walls, I stand alone. I stand in the shadow of my past. Brutus, the son I loved. Brutus, whom I sheltered under my wing, whom I believed would share this land, this power with me. Cassius, a wise warrior, a master of politics. Yet both turned their backs on me, for Rome demands blood and enmity. Perhaps I could have acted differently, done more to prevent this. But who among us can escape their destiny? This is the city I built, and the city that may well be my undoing. Rome is eternal. I am but a part of its mighty mechanism, and my final moments are merely a step in its history. Yet even in this fleeting shadow, I taste the bitterness. The mercy I showed was not always repaid. Sometimes, mercy is too great to be understood. Or perhaps I was too great for my own people. I see the light dimming within these walls, how Rome swallows all that I once built. The walls I raised have become mere reflections of my own fate. Greatness is not only victories and titles. Greatness is the understanding that you are alone, that you cannot escape your end. In this moment, I realize that in the struggle for power, I have lost what was truly precious, my humanity. How many times did I stand at the heart of Rome, surrounded by ovations, by the roar of the people, by triumph after triumph? And yet now, as I prepare to depart, I understand that through it all, I was alone, singular. And the more I achieved, the farther drifted those who once walked beside me. I remember Pompey, the greatest rival I ever faced, and a noble ally with whom I shared fate for many years. We were partners. We fought together. But in the end, each of us became our own worst enemy. Pompey, you too became a shadow, just as I am now, though your shadow is already hidden by death. Rome, no matter how much I wish to deny it, does not forgive weakness. It demands strength, certainty, and iron will. And I was a man. I would be a fool to think I could rule it forever. Yet I believed in my victory, believed that my actions would strengthen Rome, would make it greater. I was willing to sacrifice myself for that cause. And here I stand at the threshold of the end. I stand knowing that I am not alone. My life has been a road paved with glory and suffering, but it was a life nonetheless. They say I was a tyrant, that I changed Rome, that I stole its freedom. But is freedom not what Rome gave me? I brought order, I brought unity, and I brought my sacrifice. At times I wonder if I can even tell where Rome ends and I begin. We have merged. We have become one. I left my mark in its stones, in its people, in its story. But what comes after me? What will become of this city? Time is slipping away, and its footsteps merge with mine. Every moment of this night reminds me of how I lived and how I will die. Sometimes, standing in the midst of Rome, I could feel its stone streets and granite columns absorbing all that I had done. I built for Rome. I built for the future, yet I became a part of it, its eternal shadow. I rose, and now at last I descend. All those years of struggle, all those wars and victories, how much have I lost without even realizing it? I look at Rome and its cold buildings adorned with statues remind me that in the end, we are all just fragments of this vast mechanism. I was an emperor, a dictator, but I was only a man among men. And now, in this moment, as my steps slow, as I feel the light begin to fade, I understand that all that power, all that authority, was fleeting. How could I not see that we, those who stood at Rome's helm, are just as bound by fate as any mortal? I stood high, commanding legions, with Rome praying for my triumph. But now, in the face of this inescapable shadow, I see that I was too proud, too consumed by the idea of power. Was I right? Perhaps not. Rome's greatness does not depend on one ruler. It depends on unity, something I may have shattered with my decisions, with my thirst for absolute control. I took Rome as my own, but Rome belongs to no one. Brutus, his face rises before my eyes. I knew him from his earliest years. He was a friend, a son, someone I always believed stood at my side. But now his image has become unfamiliar. He entered this hall, like all the others, Cassius among them, with treachery cloaked in friendship. Perhaps they believe I betrayed Rome. But who truly betrayed whom? Whatever they think, I know this. Their actions are nothing more than bitter sparks, reflections in the mirror of my own fate. Master of Rome? Yes, I was. But what remains of power if you're left alone? Power is not just about command. It is about belonging to what you lead. And in this moment, I realized I was never truly one with this city, with these people. I was a man burdened with Rome's fate. But now, as my path comes to an end, I see that in bearing that burden, I was alone. Silence. In this silence, I can hear Rome receding. It still lives, but I have become a stranger to it. The street that once led me to power now leads me to my end. I was its master, but I could not hold this world. Rome is not a city for one man, and for too long, I believed I was its center. All these years I lifted it, guided it toward greatness, yet I failed to see how I became its shadow, fading into its grandeur. My path was not only one of glory and triumphs. It was a path of brutal choices, a road where every step was a reflection of my own cruelty. I killed those who stood in my way. I was willing to walk over corpses if it brought me closer to my goal. But now, in these final moments, I feel not pride, but the weight of those choices. The mercy I offered was not always returned, and now I taste the bitterness of those acts myself. Brutus, Cassius, the other conspirators, they were close to me, yet I could not see them as enemies. And is that not the tragedy? I could not see their malice, because I believed in their virtue, just as I believed in my own. We were all part of Rome, and each of us, regardless of who we were, sought its greatness. But now I am alone, and Rome will go on without me. I will leave it with my mission unfulfilled. That is a painful truth, but one I must accept. I always believed that history would remember only great Rome, and my name alongside it. But what if my death is just another episode? What if this great civilization does not depend on who holds power? I thought I could change Rome. I believed I would leave it in the hands of a strong ruler. But perhaps it is Rome that changes us. It did not wait for me, and it will not wait for those who come after. Woe to me if I am forgotten, but I know I cannot change the course I have taken. My name will remain in memory, but how will it be received? As glory, or as a warning to those who follow? That is no longer mine to decide. My time has passed. When a man stands at the threshold of the end, he does not recall titles. He remembers faces. There were many. Soldiers who fought beside me in Gaul, in Britain along the banks of the Rhine. Their eyes were filled with faith, with simple courage. I gave them victories, and they gave me glory. It was a bond, pure and direct, like a legionary's blade. And in that bond, I never felt alone. Then, I was needed, and they follow me not out of fear, but out of conviction. And now, I am surrounded not by legions, but by masks. masks that smile and wait for my fall. Did I give them a reason? I spared enemies who had returned their swords. But perhaps Rome does not forgive mercy. They admired me for my resolve, yet scorned me for my leniency. I believed that dignity lay in the greatness of the soul, but perhaps I was wrong, and Rome only respects strength. I remember Pompey, my ally, my rival, my adversary. We began as three, he, Crassus, and I, each with his own ambition, with a different nature, but with the same hunger. Then came civil war. His defeat became my victory, yet in it I felt no triumph. His head, brought to me in Egypt, was a disgrace, not a conquest. I turned away, as if the betrayal committed by other hands could cleanse the guilt from mine. I wanted to rise above bloodshed, but the blood followed me all the same. I defeated Pompey, but lost a part of myself. Love? Yes, there was love. In Cleopatra, I saw the East luxury freedom. In her, a reflection of my desire to be not just a Roman, but a god among mortals. I proclaimed her queen, just as I proclaimed myself dictator. But love and power do not share the same bed. Anything that does not submit vanishes. And so the feelings vanished like a mirage after battle. Only the path remained, and I walked it ever farther in solitude. Sometimes I wonder, if I were granted another life, would I choose the same path again? Would I cross the Rubicon once more, march on Rome, stand again at Elysia? Yes, because every step I took was not only for myself, but for an idea, for power, for order, for glory. I lived as a Roman should live, boldly, proudly, reaching for the impossible. I knew that Rome is eternally young, while its children are but temporary. Each of us is merely a guest in this city of stone and fate. I came to change it, but perhaps it is Rome that changed me. My triumphs, my reforms, my order, all of it will dissolve into the streets where others will walk tomorrow. I built Rome as an architect builds a temple, with the knowledge that he himself will never pray within it. I was a dictator, not out of lust for power, but out of necessity. The republic was dying, rotting from within, and I became the cure, too bitter for those who still clung to the old ways. The Senate did not hate me for the violence. It was familiar to them. They feared order. Order terrifies those who have grown comfortable in chaos. But I did not fear being the first, not because I craved the crown, but because I knew, if not me, then no one. And yet, the greatest pain is not betrayal, not the sword, not treachery. The greatest pain is the realization that you stood closer to the divine than any mortal ever dared, and it did not save you. People do not forgive those who rise too high. They may revere you when you're gone, but in life, they demand someone grounded. I feel it. My name will endure. It will become myth. Children will learn it alongside the names of gods. But let them know, Caesar was a man. I loved. I forgave. I doubted. I erred. I laughed, I fought, I built. That is what it means to be human. Not a statue, not a shadow, not a legend. Flesh that dared to dream of becoming eternal. Rome does not die with me. Rome breathes anew. There will be Augustus. There will be empire. There will be blood and marble. But in every stone, there will be a glimmer of my path. In every law, a trace of my will. In every greatness, a shadow of Caesar. I depart, but Rome remains. And perhaps in that lies the greatest victory.